Hi everyone, good morning. I hope you're having a good day of home learning. I'm here to read chapter 13 of A Dog's Promise. Here we go. Was this a new do school? We were back in that same place with the same people the next morning. Everyone seemed tense but me, and I was trying to think how to lighten the mood. Lie on my back for a tummy rub, perhaps? When all the humans in the room jumped up, the lady came in and sat at the tall desk, and then everyone sat down. It was very peculiar. The woman at the tall desk leaned forward. I don't need any more time to render my decision. The facts speak for themselves. This has already dragged on needlessly. What is important is to get this young man back in school. Grandma drew in a deep breath. Chase's dad's hand was on Burke's shoulder, and I saw his grip tighten. Mr. Pender is absolutely correct. Barring evidence that Cooper poses a significant ongoing impediment to the teacher's ability to teach and the student's ability to learn, the administration is not justified in removing either the dog or his owner from the school. The language in Title II is clear. Yay! I flopped down with a groan, heading into another nap. And yes, she continued, if the dog is aggressive, the school has every right to protect the other children. So while I do agree that he is a very big dog, I do not see that he poses any immediate threat. I mean, look at him. He's the personification of passive. Burke, you and Cooper are to be admitted to school starting tomorrow. I scrambled to my feet because everyone started hugging each other, and of course they also hugged me. Our table was very happy. I looked over at the other table as they were leaving, and they did not appear at all happy. But I didn't go over to try to change their moods. Sometimes people can't be cheered up no matter how much attention they get from a dog. Driving home, I sat in the back with Grandma, Burke, and Grant, wagging and watching for squirrels. The next morning, Grandma drove, and Burke and I got out to do school with the stone steps. I did assist, and we stopped midway up. Hi, Wenling, Burke said. Wenling did not smell like Lacey anymore, nor like any dog, which I found puzzling. How could a girl not have a dog? This time Burke enjoyed doing school so much we kept returning. The snow melted and the air filled with the fertile scent of new grasses and leaves. I was by my boy's side when he needed me, and otherwise I napped. Often did not see the unhappy do school lady, but I sure could smell her with her alien animal odors wafting through the building. Having a dry start to the summer, Chase's dad said at dinner. Better get some moisture soon. When summer brought bugs and tall grasses, we abruptly stopped seeing my friends on the steps, but I was able to spend more time with Burke. I did pull and assist, but I also curled up next to my boy at night, just being his dog. We never did do school again. But that fall, we did go to Grant's building, which had no children on the steps. Grant and Wenling were there, too, and I could smell him and Wenling even when I couldn't see them. I recognized many of my friends and made many new ones. I did not miss do school or the unhappy lady with the alien barn animal odors. This new place was just as fun. Must be high school. The snow came and was heavy and thick, and Burke needed me to do pull many, many times. I loved being a good pull dog. Sometimes Grant would push while I did pull, as good a boy as I was a dog. When the snow melted and the air warmed and thickened with the scent of grasses and flowers, I knew it meant we would soon be staying home and that I would miss everyone from Grant's building. But this was a pattern of my life, as I understood it. I liked to sit on the porch and enjoy the fragrances of the farm. As the sunlight faded, sometimes the goat ranch was on the air, sometimes horses, often cows. Of all of them, I'd only actually played with the goat and was happy to leave the other ones alone. I could smell my human family, the elusive barn animal, the ducks, dog. I sat up, drinking in the scent of a canine on the night currents, strengthening as it came closer. My nose told me it was a female. Out on the road, headed in my direction. Excited, I jumped down off the porch and trotted off to greet her. A thin young female burst from the gloom, her tail wagging as she galloped up the driveway. We ran to each other, veering at the last moment, approaching nose to tail. Her long blonde coat was full of bits of plant material, and she didn't have a collar. I lifted my leg, making a mark, which she politely took a moment to inspect. Then she was bowing and jumping so enthusiastically I wasn't able to sniff her as investigatively as I wanted. Her breath was rancid in a strange, familiar way. I was intrigued by the dried blood around one ear and the way I could feel her bones when I jumped on her. This was a very skinny dog, and the way she played, the way she ran at my side, chewing gently at my jowls, reminded me of my Lacey. Everything about her reminded me of Lacey. I stopped running. The female loped up and threw herself on her back, allowing me to finally give thorough scrutiny. She licked me as I sniffed her ears, which were covered in unruly hair. As much as I knew sit and stay, I knew who this dog was. She was a different dog, but she was the same dog. This was Lacey. Lacey. We ran side by side, tearing along the yard, retracing paths we'd worn in the grass long ago. I jumped up onto the porch and down with the squeaky toy, chewing it and then dropping it at her feet so she could see that I recognized her. I did not know that a dog could be taken away in a sudden fearful car ride, that she would be gone and people would be sad, but then she would find her way back to the farm as a new, different dog. But it made perfect sense to me now. Of course, Lacey came back to me. We belonged together. Whatever journey brought her here had almost changed her, because when Grant opened the door and came out, Lacey turned and ran off into the night. I raced after her, but when Grant whistled, I faltered, watching her disappear into the shadows. She was afraid of Grant now, which I found incomprehensible. Other than try to get me to play with the nylon bone, Grant had never done anything wrong in my experience. That night I lay on Burke's bed with my nose pointed at the open window. Lacey had not gone terribly far. I could track her scent out in the woods. The next evening, Grandma gave me a bone with succulent meat and fat clinging to it. I slipped through the dog door, my mouth salivating. I prepared for my feast by placing the bone between my feet, lying prone, but before I could even chew, an image came to me. Skinny Lacey, a sickly, sour tang on her breath, so similar to my mother's dog's exhalations in the metal den. But then we all went to live with Sam, Dad, and Ava, and Mother's frame grew stocky, and she no longer emitted the odor of a desperately starving animal. Lacey needed food. I padded over to a corner of the porch and left the fabulous treat lying there, and later that night smelled Lacey and heard her stealthy feet. She crunched that bone in the yard, too hungry to take it any further away. I concluded Lacey must be living with her person, of course, but when Wendling came to visit, there was no smell of any dogs on her legs and sleeve. Who was Lacey's person now? What did cling to Wendling's sleeves was the odor of my boy, Burke. The two of them were often pressed so close together, murmuring to each other. It was as if they had forgotten they had a dog sitting next to them. I usually wound up having to shove my nose in the small gap between them to correct their focus. "What time are you and Grant coming to pick me up for the party?" Wendling asked. "You know, since it's a formal, I think maybe I'll get a ride from someone other than he who turns on two wheels," Burke replied. "I don't know, maybe my dad." That night, Chase, Dad, and Burke departed in the car but did not take me. Lacey had wandered off. I sat on the floor hoping for attention, but Grandma didn't respond even when I rolled on my back with my legs in the air in a clear invitation to rub my tummy. Chase, Dad soon returned, but without Burke. I examined him carefully for clues as to what might have happened to my boy. "Looks like a wet start to the summer," Chase, Dad remarked. "Supposed to rain all week." "How'd she look?" Grandma asked him. "Who?" "Oh, Chase, Wendling." "Who do you think?" Well, she had on a dress and her hair was curled." My, you are so observant. Do you give the same lack of appreciation to what Natalie wears?" Chase, Dad was silent for a moment. I was watching him carefully for signs he might be getting ready to summon up some bacon, but he seemed distracted by Grandma. "How'd you hear about Natalie?" "How big do you think this town is?" "I give specific instructions to every person in the county not to talk about this. My son has another girlfriend, and you don't think my phone doesn't start ringing?" "Another girlfriend? Interesting choice of words, Mom. So the old girl network lights up every time I go on a date." "I've met her, you know. She's nice. She brought her nieces to the book fair and made a point of saying hello to me." "It isn't serious, Mom." "Maybe it should be serious. I've got enough on my plate. Spoken like a true bachelor. So is that where you were Saturday night? Or did your set last until 5 a.m.? "Oh my God, Mom, this is embarrassing. My son," she observed lightly, "seems stiff as a board. Then he goes to town to play guitar, and I hear he's up there dancing and laughing. Rumor has it you've been a completely different person on that stage." Why doesn't that wild man ever show up here? Oh, Chase Dad grunted. I have to set an example for the boys. Farming is a hard way to make a living. I decided to give up on both of them. Sighing, I put my head down. For a moment there, I'd been so committed to the idea of bacon, I could almost smell it. I think part of that example should be offering them a view of their father as being a man with more than one note to play. Mom, they need stability. They need to know they can count on me not to change. Grandma's tone softened. They know they can rely on you, Chase. They know you'd never abandon him. Really? Not enjoying this conversation. Suit yourself. I was curled up on Burke's bed when I heard a vehicle in the driveway. I chased out through the dog door and trotted up to where Wenling's father was setting Burke's chair on the ground. Wenling hugged Burke and kissed his face by his ear. I went to his side to see if he needed me to do pull, but he just sat and waved at the car, and then he spun his chair in circles. I have no idea what he was doing. When we rolled up to the ramp and into the house, Grandma was the only person in the living room. Did you have a good time at the dance, dear? It was pretty much the best day of my life. Oh, Brooke, that's sweet. I'm happy for you. I could sense Grant standing just around the corner, but whatever was going on didn't interest him enough for him to join us. Grandma and Burke talked more, and then Grandma said, I'm going to bed, and Burke accompanied me into his room. I pressed my nose to the window to search for Lacey, but she wasn't close. I heard a noise, and Grant was at the door, leaning against the wall. How was the freshman spring fling? He asked in a flat tone. I didn't get very far flung, Burke replied, but it was a fun party. You make out with Wenling? What's your problem? I could feel Burke getting angry. You'll be 15 in June. I kissed my first girl when I was a lot younger. Yeah? Were you in a wheelchair? God, that's your answer for everything. Or maybe it's just that you're in a wheelchair. You don't get much opportunity to date. I just can't wait for you to have your operation. Then you can do all the chores. You can't wait. Grant turned and left. His angry walk looked just like Chase Dad's. When Lacey returned, she had a healed cut on her shoulder. What drew my attention, though, was something else. A scent so enticing and obligating I could not control myself. I was seized by compulsion I had never experienced or did not understand. And in my play, I wanted only to climb on her back, gripping her with my forepaws. In that moment, it was more important to be with my mate than my people, and if Burke had called, I would not have been able to respond. Later, Lacey sprawled out in the dirt, and I lay with my head resting on her side, rising and falling with her breathing. She still did not smell like Wenling. As I approached the porch, Lacey shied away, remaining in the shadows. And when I slipped through the dog door, I knew she had turned and left. Where were her people? Why didn't Wenling and her father come to get Lacey and feed her? Where did Lacey go when she left me for so many days at a time, if not to her person? When the air turned hot, the family schedule abruptly changed. As I anticipated, we stopped going to see my friends, and Grant and Chase would leave together every morning to go out and play with dirt in the fields. Burke would talk into his phone, saying Wenling a lot. On a day when the rain was pounding the roof and slapping the car windshield so emphatically the sound was overwhelming, Grandma drove Burke and me a long distance, stopping occasionally to dash into a building and then returning with a box or a bag, but no treats. Every time we halted, Burke slid down a window, which was how I tracked the weather as the rain lessened and then stopped completely. I sat with my boy and breathed in the mud and leaves and water. So, Grandma, Burke said slowly after Grandma returned yet again to the car, tell me again why you need me to come with you. I had to run errands. Right, Burke agreed. But Grandma, I can tell something is going on. Grandma blinked, smiling. Well, I have no idea what you're talking about. It just feels like there's some reason you wanted me away from the house for a few hours, he noted. Does the fact that I turned 15 on Wednesday have anything to do with it? Oh, well, I'm glad it stopped raining. Burke laughed, so I wagged. The car moved and the windows did shut, but I could still drink in the glorious moist air of the wet outdoors. I sniffed hard as we passed the goat ranch. We were heading home. When we pulled into a driveway and jumped out, I was excited to see that everything from the barn had been moved outside and stacked against the side of the building. I delightedly marked the items, something I felt I should not do when they were in the barn itself. Many of them smelled like the slinky barn animals, so I was careful to make sure I wet those. There were 2 cars nearby, and I diligently lifted my leg on these as well. Grandma went into the house, and Grant walked out at the barn smiling, Happy birthday, brother. Thanks, you're a few days early, but I do appreciate that you empty the barn for me. Truly the best gift. Come on inside for a sec, Grant replied, gesturing. My boy did not have to do pull as we wheeled over to the barn and up the short ramp. I was starting to see what awaited us inside. Several boys all standing and grinning in the big empty room. Burke hesitated on the threshold, then slowly wheeled himself in. You put a basketball net up in the barn, he observed. Is that my birthday present? If so, you've truly managed to surprise me with this one. I was expecting a running track. Some of the boys chuckled, and they came up to grab Burke's hand or slap his palms and then reach out to pat my head. Graham produced a large ball that rang loudly when he bounced it on the floor. I tensed because I knew that I could never get my jaws on the thing, though I would try, of course. We thought it might be fun to play a little round ball, he said. He put the ball in Burke's lap. Come on. Huh? Burke replied. The end. Hope you enjoyed that chapter. Tomorrow we'll have chapter 14 for you. Have a good rest of the day. Bye, everyone. I miss you.